in Belize.
So let's say that happened.
Hello, welcome to our top stories for 2017. The year was marked by the unexpected and also the predictable. We saw some critical court judgments on high-profile cases, the introduction of an amendment to decriminalize small quantities of marijuana, and the Senate inquiry wrapped up after 1 year of hearings. There was a killer explosion, tragic vehicle accidents, and even the laughable double crowning of queens at St. George's Key Day. Not unlike years past, crime and violence continue to dominate the headlines. In our look back of 2017, we focused on the top 15 stories that are significant to Belize over the course of the past 364 days. We start our countdown with a special mention, a Facebook special mention. Our Facebook integration has become very popular. Our live stream of the nightly news has people tuning in from all over the world, conveniently right through their Facebook pages. Our special mention story is the most viewed video post of the year, with a reach of over 2.8 million Facebook users and 1.3 million views. We're guessing that people really like these triplets. Our most viewed Facebook story for 2017 was the delivery of triplets at the country's National Referral Hospital, Carl Houston Memorial Hospital. The first-time mom and her newborn sons and daughter had their first media appearance at the hospital, and our news team was there to capture it.
I feel happy. Right now I feel happy. I feel emotional. My tears will bring them. The tears are drying. I just want to thank everybody and thank God. My 3 baby. And I try my best. If you do anything for them, thank God. Thank all the nurses who were there by my side. I especially want to thank Sister Gira.
20-year-old Virginia Garnett is emotional today. She has been for the past week since giving birth to 3 babies. She's the mother of triplets, Marlon, Malric, and Miracle, 2 boys and a girl. They were born on Tuesday, September 5th at the KHMH. The triplets, each weighing an average of 5 pounds, were delivered by C-section a few weeks early. And to celebrate their birth, the triplets got a special ceremony in their honor.
It's the first triplets for this year at in Carl Houston, and I haven't heard about any in the country so far. There was 1 year before that we had 3 triplets for the year, but that was some years ago. They were born via cesarean section because it's 3 babies, and the mommy didn't have complications after. They were a few weeks before the due date, and we had to observe them for a couple of days. They fed well, they breastfed, and they went home and doing well so far.
Garnett, a first-time mom of Belize City, says she was in complete shock when she found out that she was having 3 babies when she went in for an ultrasound.
She research, and I see she turn on my friend and she goes, so, but I never pay her no mind. I never made pay her no mind. She put up 3 fingers and open them up wide, so I look on me, I tell me, Miss, he say, you know you have 3 baby in your belly. I never said nothing. I sat up on the bed like for 5 minutes and I just stare up in the sky and I don't say nothing. All kind of things that run through my mind. And after the while I start talk to the doctor and that she tell me I gone, like what different world just now when she tell me and that's true. I mean, she really shocked. I'm a shock and what happy and thing.
And those several months later were a bit challenging carrying 3 babies, and so when delivery came around, she was happy. She recounts what those moments were like.
One spell, I do nothing. My mom, my dear brother, they have to do every single thing for me. Everything, even if something drop right in front of me, I need somebody to go pick that up. Can't bend how I want, can't sleep how I want. But for the last, for the last few weeks, I start to feel pain up in my back. One spell I feel like I never make it. I tell the man, sir, we have to pray. And the man said, all right, then come, I could pray, I will pray. I could pray in your head, and by the time I done said, oh, Father, I had the first bawling, I feel happy. And like I want to get up and all, but then you're not on your head, you can move and thing. And the man said, yes, that's the first baby. And think I feel happy.
And now that she has 3 babies, Garnett needs all the support she can get. She says her mother has stepped up big time, and others came to celebrate these 3 little ones. They came bearing gifts for babies and mom, from hygiene products to clothing to baby food. Garnett and her babies were showered with gifts today.
We are the official distributors for Johnson & Johnson in Belize, and in this occasion we presented the mother and the wonderful babies with a basket full of baby products for newborn babies until they are toddler size.
We provided a package filled with Huggies diapers. We're the official distributor of Huggies diapers. We gave also the mother, we gave Ovaltine 7Cs, as Trudy was saying, and the ladies from Brody's. After you've given birth to one child, you really need to replenish yourself. So, we gave that to the mom, and we are committed as well to at least supply them with the first 3 months of with diapers.
And so what we decided to do, let her not worry about much of her groceries for the next 3 months, which takes her closer to Christmas. And I'm hoping that everyone comes together and prepare that Christmas dinner.
We brought Pampers and wipes. We are the agent for Procter & Gamble. They're very good products. And so we brought Pampers and wipes and laundry detergent to wash the baby clothes. Yeah, so we do quite a big line.
And Garnett is thankful. The new mom couldn't stop thanking everyone and praising her 3 babies.
I have 3 healthy kids, right? I thank God. But before that, I gone through a lot of pain. Thank God for the pain there too, because the pain is so beautiful. 3 beautiful, healthy baby. I want to thank all the sponsors and all supporters. Even I don't know where I do it out, Mr. Taylor. I don't know where I do it out. And thanks very much. God bless. Everybody will help me out.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
From the inspiring birth of Marlon, Mallory, and Miracle to the absurdity of this year's Queen of the Bay crowning. It's a long-standing tradition that the incoming Queen of the Bay is crowned at the official ceremony for the 10th of September. In our most bizarre TV moment this year, we saw not just one queen being crowned, but 2, and at the same time. The embarrassing moment was broadcast live on television and radio and culminated with the firing of the coordinator. We hardly see how anyone would have forgotten this 2017 highlight.
An annual feature of the 10th of September ceremony, the coronation of the Queen of the Bay usually goes without issue and brings a splash of color to the official proceedings. But on this 10th day, controversy reigned as the decision of the Queen of the Bay Committee to recognize Esmeralda Carla of Orange Walk as Queen was overruled in favor of already declared winner Aliyah Isagire. First, there was the traditional proclamation read by Candice Pitts with an unexpected ending.
Hear he, hear he, hear he. Whereas the reigning Queen of the Bay, Crystalline Castillo, the graceful, having decided to relinquish her throne and lay down the crown and scepter of the Bay on the 22nd day of September 2017, the 2nd day of September 2017 at the Bird's Isle, with the advice and counsel of the judges, Frank Tench, Rashida Hoy, Alma Gonzalez, Sharon Fraser, Ed Williams, Clayton Greenidge, Luwani Daniels, Marie Louise Murray, Charlotte Perriott, Oyinkro Akpadoro, who being persons of excellent taste, sung, minds, and with keen knowledge of womanly beauty, charm, poise, and intelligence, did choose and name her successor, Miss Esmeralda Call, the charming to the joy of the people of the Bay. Now do we, by common consent, declare, pronounce, and proclaim Esmeralda Called, Queen of the Bay, to be crowned in the presence of all three gathered.
But as the booze rained down, Mistress of Ceremonies Shara Williams stepped in and delivered a twist straight out of Hollywood, with Neil Hall as
For
straight
that,
man.
now point of order, ladies and gentlemen. We have a new proclamation to be read by Mr. Neil Hall.
Hear ye, hear ye. Whereas the reigning Queen of the Bay, Crystalline Castillo, the Graceful, having decided to relinquish her throne and lay down the crown and scepter of the Bay on the 27th day of August, 2017, at the Bird's Isle, with the advice and counsel of the judges, who being persons of excellent taste, sound minds, and with keen knowledge of womanly beauty, charm, poise, and intelligence, did choose and name as her successor, Aliyah Isagiri, the charming, to the joy of the people of the Bay. Now, do we by common counsel declare, pronounce, and proclaim Aliyah Isagiri, Queen of the Bay, to be crowned in the presence of all here gathered. Given at the court of the Queen this 10th day of September in the year 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Neil Hall, and that is how you present a proclamation.
Hall did get the date wrong. It was September 2nd, not August 27th. But that paled to what happened next. Her Graciousness Crystalline Castillo and Isagire performed their crowning front and center of the Memorial Park stage. In the background, a grim-faced Zenaida Moya performed her own ceremony with Cal. But on this day, Isagire would get the happy ending, complete with the vanquishing of the evil benefactor.
With this crown, I crown you the Queen of the Bay. Thank you.
I'm being asked for the police department to kindly remove Zenaida Moya off the stage. Miss Zenaida, can you please exit the stage?
I, Aliyah Isagiri, accept this crown, robe, and sash, and I will wear it with pride and dignity.
Miss Emma Boyton sent a special request. She wishes to wish everyone a happy September celebrations. She asked me to thank Miss Zenaida Moya for her services and to let her know that her services as chairperson of the committee will no longer be needed.
Truth be told, the new queen was one of the few on stage with both. Aaron Humes reporting for News 5.
Accidents in the airline industry are not daily occurrences, thankfully. So when a Tropic Air plane carrying at least 2 ministers ended in the sea in Placencia, it made big news. The Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber, as well as Minister Godwin Hulse and 9 other passengers, were heading to Punta Gorda when the incident happened. A stop in Placencia fortunately turned out to be only a scary experience. The plane had just taken off from the runway when one of its wheels hit a passing vehicle and ended in the Caribbean Sea. All persons on board were rescued, and in the days ahead, the Deputy Prime Minister recounted his experience.
A joint investigation by the Belize Airports Authority, Civil Aviation and the Police Department is currently underway into the accident that sent a Tropic Air plane carrying passengers into the sea in Placencia. During liftoff just before 9 o'clock on Friday morning, the aircraft would clip a Subaru SUV near the end of the runway. The vehicle sustained extensive damage to the right passenger side, trapping an occupant inside. But the plane would hover for a few seconds before it came crashing into the sea some hundreds of feet away.
The investigation is still ongoing. But to tell you some basic facts, on the 17th of November, that was last week Friday, a Tropic Air aircraft departed from the Placencia airstrip, flight 3073. The aircraft had originated from the Sorbariboan Municipal Airport in Belize City and was going all the way to Punta Gorda. The aircraft, it's a Cessna 208 with 11 persons on board. That was 9 passengers and 2 crew. Departed the Placencia airstrip and then bound to Punta Gorda. In its departure, the aircraft came into contact with a vehicle, which caused the aircraft to ditch into the sea.
It was a frightening ordeal for those inside the SUV and the V3 HGX caravan. Traveling at the time to Punta Gorda were Amanda Burgos from the Belize Audubon Society and a personnel from PACT, as well as Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Farber and Immigration Minister Godwin Hulse, who were heading for the opening of the PG Sporting Complex. Farber, who sat directly behind the pilot, recounted his experience, saying that he couldn't swim and was assisted onto the wing of the submerged plane.
I couldn't tell that anything was wrong when the plane was taking off from Placencia until we heard the loud crashing song, and then realized quickly as we continued to ascend that there was a problem, that something was terribly wrong. We ascended, I think, for another few seconds, maybe up to a minute, and then realized that we were going to go down pretty fast. I think the pilot lost the engine, and we then decided to brace for impact. All that was going through my mind was that this can't be real, this can't be happening, this is something that I'm sure everybody who rides one of these planes think about all the time, but you never really believe it's going to happen, and here it was happening. I really believe that the pilot did a very, very skillful job at landing the plane in the manner in which it did. That proved in terms of the physical impact on the passengers to be very, very, very little. So the landing was pretty much a jolt forward. Later on, we would see that produced a huge bump on the head and a burst even for the pilot, and for a few other people, including Minister Hulse, a bruise on the face. I was fortunate not to experience any of that. One little scratch, it's not even anything to talk about, was what I experienced. But later on, I would find out that, in fact, I did have some muscle spasm in my back, and also some tension in the forehead, and also on the sides of my face. Chewing for the next couple of days would be difficult. But the most difficult part of the ordeal for me was once we touched the water, and I will tell you that I'm a non-swimmer, so that became a problem for me.
In the immediate aftermath, the Tropic Control Tower received a call on the accident, and an investigation team was formed and dispatched to the scene. As the team worked over the extended weekend and remains on the ground today, on Monday the wreckage was extricated from the waters.
The aircraft has been taken out from the waters. The wreckage is out of the waters and has been placed into a confined area, so that the investigators from the Belize Department of Civil Aviation, in coordination with our Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation, can continue with the investigation.
It is known that there were several safety measures put in place to avoid collisions. Deputy Director of the Civil Aviation Department, Gilberto Torres, says that aside from the investigation determining who is responsible for the accident, safety protocols will be revisited.
The management and administration of all government-owned aerodromes such as the Placencia is vested under the Belize Airports Authority, and we coordinate with them on a daily basis to ensure that safety is never compromised And as such, there are certain procedures in place so that we can guard and protect arriving on the passenger aircraft. Yeah, as is in Placencia, there is a procedure in place. There are road markings, there are barriers in place, and obviously the general public should adhere to those or abide to these certain directions given so as to avoid a mishap that we had on Friday.
Upon reaching the airstrip, we stopped because one of the barriers was down, right? But we never noticed if the plane were landing or taking off. And upon reaching at the bump, we watched that we noticed that the plane was taking off and the next barrier was not down. And the driver just jumped the bump and just continued to drive completely around. And upon reaching the center of the curve, the right wheel of the plane just collided into the vehicle, and the plane just continued before it went down in the water.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
Our number 12 story highlights the frequency of deaths on our roadways. Deaths caused by accidents are always painful for families and friends left behind. Speeding and intoxication led to an overwhelming amount of deaths on the highways this year. In October, one particularly tragic accident left a Belize City family grappling with the loss of 3 family members. The fatal traffic accident occurred just outside of Belize City and claimed the life of 23-year-old Martha Vasquez, her 18-month-old daughter Diana Castillo, and her sister-in-law 30-year-old Samantha Castillo. To add to the anguish, the driver of the offending vehicle, a U.S. diplomat, enjoyed diplomatic privileges and left the country immediately.
It's a tragic end to what was a quiet and calm day for the Castillo and Vasquez families. They lost 3 members of their family in a tragic road traffic accident. 23-year-old Marta Vasquez, her 18-month-old baby girl Diana Castillo, and her sister-in-law, 30-year-old Samantha Castillo, died here at mile 4 on the George Price Highway on Saturday, sometime shortly before 4 in the afternoon. Vasquez's other daughter, 6-year-old Angelique Castillo, is hospitalized with 2 broken legs.
On the way by the dump site, they had this accident where this vehicle was overtaking a truck, and it was a direct impact to them where this tragedy happened. And that's we get to find out it was a U.S. diplomat. We don't know who the person is. Yeah, we are just saddened by this tragedy. We're trying to mourn the families in big problems right now with this thing. So we're trying to contemplate the family and just support my mother, which is taking a big hit. My sister's husband, he is devastated, and we're grieving right now.
It is an unimaginable tragedy for the family. Vasquez was with her common-law husband at their business at Old Belize. She left before him in an SUV with her sister-in-law at the wheel. But this truck, driven at the time by U.S. diplomat Justin Guidry, was allegedly speeding and overtaking, and so collided head-on into the SUV and sent it flipping off the highway. Vasquez's body was thrown from the vehicle. She died later at the hospital. Her baby girl and sister-in-law died almost instantly.
Eyewitnesses are reporting that the truck was speeding at a very, very fast. He was moving very fast, and he decided to overtake this truck on a curve, and he couldn't make it to overpass the truck, and that's when my sister was coming with her family there, and it was a direct impact. There was not even time for brakes or anything. It just happened all of a sudden. Yeah.
The vehicle flipped,
or the vehicle flipped twice in the air before making touching ground. As soon as it touched ground, my sister was flown about 15 to 20 feet away into the water. She fell into a pond, a muddy pond, and when my brother-in-law, he was behind them, and he came there and assist. He couldn't find my sister. They took out the baby. The baby was dead on impact. his sister was dead to the impact.
Escobar says that they were told Guidry was taken to the hospital in another vehicle. They're really hurt and disappointed that he didn't try to help the family. He has not made contact with them. They were told that Guidry was flown out of the country.
That's what hurts the most, because he didn't have no heart, you know, to render assistance. Seeing people there, he didn't had no heart to come in and assist. Basically, he has not even get in contact with the family. We understand that he has been flown out already out of the country, which is, you know, God takes care of everything.
Escobar says their family cannot move on from this heartbreaking tragedy. 3 family members with big dreams and hopes for the future were taken in an instant.
We cannot move on with this one. This one is very hard. The baby died, she died, the next sister-in-law died. We have one niece that she survived. She is our comfort, that she is the only last piece remaining of my sister. And right now when she woke up, she is asking for her mother. How could we let her know that, you know, where her mother is, where her baby sister is? It is very, very hard for us to have to answer to those questions.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andra Polanco.
In mid-December, mining experts exploded dynamite at a quarry in Santa Elena in the proximity of a residential area. The blast killed Canadian consultant Ronald Sutherland and damaged as many as 14 houses. Residents of the community of Santa Cruz were shaken to the core by the blast. Some sustained minor injuries. As the dust settled, it was learned that Belize Roadway Construction Limited, which hired Tiger Aggregates Limited to mine the quarry for material to build roads, did not have a license.
Around 5:30 on Tuesday evening, the unthinkable would happen in the quiet residential area of Santa Cruz in Santa Elena town. Mining experts from Tiger Aggregates Limited detonated a large quantity of dynamite at a quarry. The company's general manager, Canadian national Ronald Sutherland, was killed in the blast. Sutherland had over 30 years of experience.
Unfortunately, something went wrong, and the materials were missiled away from their anticipation or expectations. And unfortunately, my friend that was operating the dynamites, he was hurt, he was hit, and he passed away.
While Sutherland perished in the incident, several other persons received various degrees of injuries while trying to dodge the missiles from the blasts. Houses and vehicles in the area, however, were extensively damaged. Varying sizes of rocks ricocheted and came crashing down, 4 houses completely destroyed and families displaced. Residents who stood beyond the cordoned-off area weren't able to access their homes until just after 11 this morning. They recounted the frightening ordeal, saying they were only notified that explosives would have been detonated in the area just before 3 p.m. that day by police and company reps.
I see the first one, it wasn't anything big. And the second one, I made a video it too, but when I see it come up, and I feel one knock, and I tell my friend run, and I run for make I go out from the place because I get injured by my foot. After everything done, I gone up and I check my property, and I may have to drop on my knee and cry because my property damage. I have 2 property the back there, one on rental and one where I live, and then damage bad. The roof not good for nothing. The inside, my electricity, everything, my storage, everything broke up, and not even the big stones in the inner the house.
How many of you live there?
I have 4 kids and myself.
Now, You guys were notified that these kind of explosives were going to be used in the area?
Well, Tuesday, one of the worker come in and the worker said, just no make we have the kids out because they want to have one blaster back. So we may think that's something small, and then yesterday evening about like 2:30 to 2:40, a police lady come and said that we need to left our properties, but we never know that so bad it might happen.
I walked in and everything is, the vehicles are destroyed. The boulders, the big rocks are in the vehicle. The glass, the windshield is bust. When you walk in the house, the zincs are down. The beds, the TV, the fridge, everything is broken into pieces. The stove, dirt, everything is on. The debris is all over. You know, and you see from the video the boulders coming in from the zinc, and you see the debris busting out, from the front doors. So, I mean, these people lost everything. You know, and they took years, years of struggle to actually get them where they are right now. And for it to be destroyed within 20 seconds, I don't understand as to why these people did a bombing in a residential area.
Social media lit up in complete disbelief that an incident of this magnitude would happen in Belize, let alone in a residential area where at least 15 houses were within a few hundred yards of the explosion. Tiger Aggregates Limited was contracted by Belize Roadway Construction Limited, which won the approximately $7 million road rehabilitation project for Santa Elena town. The project, which is currently on the way, is for drainage and pavement works on the George Price Highway and other areas. The company was in need of road material and sought the expertise of Tiger Aggregates Limited. But there is a pit on the Benker Road and on the Hummingbird Highway in Armenia that could have been used. So who issued the authorization for the company to mine? Mayor Trapp says not his town council.
I was shocked and surprised that they were mining in that area, because I will tell you that yesterday, about 11 o'clock, I spoke to the contractor for the highway. And because he was excavating material from our pit on the Benkevijo Road. And I learned that his equipments had relocated or had moved when I went there yesterday. And so I called, but he said that he was trying to, the material from that site wasn't passing the tests of a solid foundation. So they were trying to get something more solid. And I think in that respect, they moved to that site to mine, and I wasn't aware of it.
That contractor just took it on his own to go there and mine in that area. I would think that would be illegal.
Mr. Moody, I don't think they would just go and mine in an area. Definitely, they would have had to gotten some permission from some authorities.
News 5 understands that the mining received a ministerial nod. Residents now question who will assist to replace the loss that they've incurred. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
Among those outstanding Belizeans who passed away but left a mark on our national fabric in 2017 were the beloved Bishop O.P. Martin and Leela Vernon. Bishop Martin was the first Garifuna bishop of the Roman Catholic Church, who died in February, while Leela Vernon was the iconic queen of Creole culture. She died in April.
His mother was very happy when he decided to go into the priesthood. She was very, very proud of him, and so is the family. We didn't think that we lost a son, but we were able to gain more family because he made a lot of family in our country.
Contemporary and Bishop of the Anglican Church in Belize, Right Reverend Philip Wright, said that after decades of expatriate leadership, Bishop Martin's ordination proved a turning point for the development of the Christian faith in the Jewel.
I think both for the quality of leadership he offered and also for some of the things he was able to achieve, I think Bishop Martin will long be remembered for making a significant inroad in the leadership of the church. I think we also have to bear in mind, as you rightly pointed out, his place as among the first truly local, to take leadership, and to think about the fact that following expatriate leadership, how important that would have been for him to be a model for all future leaders of the church in terms of how he exercised his own episcopal responsibilities.
When you see the young girl coming down from foot, what a minute do? Come around this way. Nobody else there on this earth like you, Lila. Nobody else will put for their music and their culture way up top of the top like you, girl. If only others may got for you passion and love for their things will show your own true self, culture. No matter if you're a Creole, Mestizo, Garifuna, Maya, East Indian, or any other culture in our country, then Belize would have come together for through, and our nation would have get enough blessing. And each culture group would have got for their correct place and respect in this country. And know how you love up your culture and your music, Lila, and how much you may so treasure your Mayan mixture. But you may choose to identify with your African ancestors, so you may know how important this day for the Belize Creole. And we all much better sick of this. You're the one Belizean to the bone, top of the top, Lila. And like Mr. Peters, you are living a free heart and mind forever. I remember you forever as part of a rich culture and music heritage.
It took 9 years to change the composition of the Senate, and it also is our story number 9. The appointment of the 13th senator was an elusive dream that became reality only after much agitation by the social partners. Osmani Salas was elected by the non-governmental community to represent them in the upper chamber. But despite his election, he did not immediately proceed to take up his seat due to unnecessary hurdles. Salas, a well-known advocate in the sector, made his historic debut on January 30th.
I just want to say how humbled I am to have been elected by the NGO community to represent them in this honorable house. I pledge to do my utmost best to represent the community and to work towards the sustainable human development and the development of our country, for the betterment of our country. My pledge is, in addition to do my utmost best to represent our community, to help organize our NGO community so that we could be even more effective in the work of development that we do. I would like to acknowledge the presence of my family, my friends, fellow members from the NGO community who came to show their support today. I'm very appreciative of that. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the tireless efforts from our teachers and the business community for all the work that they did to ensure that today would come true. And I also acknowledge the work and the support from the opposition for supporting the work of the teacher and their efforts. And last but certainly not least, thank you to our Prime Minister for, after a long wait, finally deciding to listen to the cries of the teachers and to sign the commencement order to ensure that today would also come.
The courts were not immune to the challenges eating away at the fabric of society. It started in the lower courts in May when a magistrate was charged with rape after a woman he knew made allegations against him. Then in September at the Supreme Court, the Bar Association made stinging remarks about the failure of the Chief Justice to deliver judgments promptly. By year's end, the CJ had yet to clear the backlog, but had made progress. Lastly, in December, the Court of Appeal also came under scrutiny with the resignation of newly appointed Justice Franz Park, who left under a cloud of suspicion. Park's departure was effective immediately, and it's our number 8 story for 2017.
The resignation of Justice of the Court of Appeal Franz Park, announced today, is unique in the annals of Belizean history. From the moment his name was first announced to join the appellate court, his credentials were questioned, as he had not practiced in the Caribbean since 1980, despite graduating from law school with Prime Minister Dean Barrow in 1975. But the former classmate declared it was enough for him.
I genuinely do not see that Mr. Parks, the fact that the bulk of Mr. Parks' practicing experience has been in the United States, more time practicing in the US than in the Caribbean. I do not see that that's a disqualification. And when I look at the Constitution, what is required is that this person should have been entitled to practice in our jurisdiction for a certain number of years. And he was so entitled from 1975. I'm sorry to say that it's as long ago as that I graduated and that therefore he graduated. So I am convinced he had come already, and he did one session as a temporary judge. I had no complaints from the president of the court or from any other member of the court, and I am convinced that Franz, as bright as he is, and with all the experience that he has, will make a fine justice of appeal.
The opposition, with support from the Bar Association, the Chamber of Commerce, unions, and the NGO community, argued otherwise and instituted a legal challenge that was scheduled for trial next Monday, December 11th. That Park has now decided to throw in the towel, Bresenia said, was the right thing, but it should not have reached this point.
We should never reach to a point where we are challenging the Prime Minister's appointments to either the Supreme Court or to the Court of Appeal. But saying that, I want to welcome the news that Justice Frank Park has tendered his resignation as Justice for the Court of Appeal. I think that he did the right thing. In a democracy, it is very important for us to always feel that the judiciary is independent and that there's no undue influence on the part by anybody, be it the government or the opposition. And in a time when we are finding ourselves in a really sad situation in our country, when the government, through the Prime Minister of Belize, has decided that he is going to completely disregard a ruling from the highest court in the land, it raises concerns.
The PUP in a press release stated that it was, quote, grateful that Mr. Park, in the end, demonstrated the moral fortitude, respect, and regard for the court and the country, which unfortunately Mr. Barrow did not, end quote. And because he did, Bresenia has instructed attorneys to withdraw his legal challenge, since the objective has been achieved without the need for trial. When the case was first called up, Senior Counsel A1 Courtney discussed what might happen if the ruling went against Park.
If the court were to hold that the decision of the Prime Minister to advise the Governor General to appoint Mr. Park is unconstitutional, then it follows that his appointment is unconstitutional, and any matter on which he has sat would be affected by that unconstitutionality. As you know, Mr. Park was well aware that this matter was pending. The government was well aware that this matter was pending, and they proceeded nonetheless to make the appointment. So if there's a consequence, they knowingly proceeded with a challenge pending in the wings.
It appears that rather than test that consequence, the Jamaican American fell on his sword. So what happens next? Another appointment is needed before the Court of Appeal resumes in March, and the opposition leader, who must be consulted, has some ideas.
What the Prime Minister needs to do is to quickly start to look for making another appointment, but someone that can meet the qualifications that is expected of a justice at the level of the Court of Appeals. This matter of writing you a letter and said, by writing you a letter I've consulted and I can do as I wish, is no longer going to work. Because if we feel that, again, he's trying to ram down somebody that is friendly to him and that could potentially be answerable to him, we will object, and we will then go to our social partners, as we did with this case, and get the support, and if necessary, then go and challenge it in court.
Aaron Humes reporting for News 5.
There was good news in the judiciary as we saw the elevation of two prominent Belizean attorneys to the regional courts. The first Belizean, Justice Dennis Barrow, was appointed to the Caribbean Court of Justice, while Senior Counsel Godfrey Smith was named as a judge of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Number 7 on our list is the strange disappearance and return of 17-year-old Kelvin Usher. The young student from St. John's Junior College captured the attention of the nation for 4 days. The circumstances of his disappearance led to impromptu protests by Belizean youths who felt that the gang suppression unit was somehow involved in Kelvin's disappearance. Search parties comprising family, friends, well-wishers, the police, and BDFs scoured the area and came up empty-handed. Then, in a circumspect turn of events, just as the tensions were about to spill over, the young man emerged from the bushes in the vicinity that he first went missing. The nation breathed a collective sigh of relief, and the vigil turned into a celebration for Kelvin.
After 4 days on the run, lost in the dense forest, the glare of media cameras seemed to overwhelm young Kelvin Usher as he received a welcome akin to musical or sporting royalty. On this day, he was the hero, returned against all odds. And like most heroes, he found something timely and passionate to say.
I would like to say thank you to everybody who will look out for me, who went out there and searched for me. I never know people will love me like this. I know bad, I want to try I got to a lot though. Really. That's a lot. Listen. This right there, this make I really happy right there, you know. So much people go together like this to one person. That's sick to me, not amazing. So I could be, man. That's how we used to be, man. You have to be like angry or violent or love, unity. Yeah.
Police ringed the battlefield park, but for the most part, they were ignored. Props to the dramatic centerpiece of this idol of thanksgiving and emotion. Kelvin's dad, Cameron Usher, also known as Ras Ruben, also gave thanks for that unity. He says that, more than anything else, helped his son come home and move the authorities to finally step in.
I have to thank all of my brothers. All because of their strength. Make all of them get frightened. Scared them the most. Because they see everybody where they war with one another right now come together as one entity with one heart and one soul and one love and come find my son. And that strength there, find my son. Because my son used that right there as hope and faith and come out of the bush, you understand? Through all what he gone through. So we have to give thanks to everybody faith. Everybody, every last prayer, yard and foreign, every last mouth we say, Kelvin come home, you understand? And Kelvin alive. Give thanks, you know.
Two other attendees we spoke with emphasized that our unity as a people must overcome all differences, that if we all truly work together, then much more can be realized.
I am happy to see that my young people can come together in one common state and reason with one another. It was more about politics. It was more than what's happening around it. It was definitely about one of us. So this is one thing that I would like to see more often, young people coming out at the forefront and just, being there and can come to one level with each other without political influence.
Do you think if things had not gone the way they did today, we might have a different result out here?
Oh, definitely yes. Maybe it would have turned out more violently because the pressure was on for answers. That's what really brought people out. They were looking for answers, and today they got their answers.
The experience out here was full of love, and everybody came together as one as youths. And we're just happy that Kelvin is back home, and we thank everybody who came out to support, because it's not only a movement, but it reminded me of my little cousin that was murdered. So I just said the love that was out here.
Okay. What do you expect to see coming out after tonight? He's back home. The authorities have had their say. So what happens next? Do we?
Well, we hope that they find the other youths that are missing right now, Erwin and Danielle. We just hope that this movement continues so they understand where we're coming from.
Aaron Humes reporting for News 5.
Over 5 years ago, the people's referendum spearheaded by Oceana Belize clearly documented that Belizeans did not support offshore oil drilling. All the advocacy efforts of environmentalists and conservationists yielded success in 2017 when the government of Belize passed the Petroleum Operations Maritime Zone Moratorium Bill 2017. The bill conclusively established a moratorium on exploration, exploitation, and other operations within the Belize Barrier Reef system, including those sections of the World Heritage Site. This success story places number 6 in our top stories for 2017.
And I'm particularly glad to see, because my understanding of the first version was that I believe some of the fines or penalties or years were certainly not strong enough. And so I can appreciate that there has been an attempt to increase it. It will always be subjective whether you think it's long enough for imprisonment and if the amount of fine is big enough, given that it is $1 billion industry at the end of the day. Under Section 6, referring to prior rights subject to prohibition, 6.2, it says, for the purposes of subsection 1, the minister may enter into compensation arrangements with persons who have been adversely affected by the prohibition under this act. Again, given the nature of what we're dealing with, and clearly it has been a controversial matter until it has been brought finally to where it has, if the leader of government business can state, if we have an idea of how many or how much of this exists, so that we can get an appreciation if there are some liabilities that the government will be taking on and to what amount there is.
This is one of those situations where I think we have to celebrate an act. We have to celebrate the fact that as a community, as a country, we have come together to agree on what the right thing is to do. There's been a lot of discussion about this. There's been a lot of debate about the economics of it, about the social impact of it, and we've come to a situation where all of us have agreed that this is the right thing to do. So for me, it's a Christmas gift. That's how I see it. No, Christmas gift. I just want to see if I can clarify a couple of the issues, though, that have been raised. In the definitional, in the interpretation section, the maritime zone of Belize, and let me speak to that first, includes all the internal waters, all the territorial sea, the exclusive economic zone, but there has to be some line defining where land is and where water is. And that line is the low water mark. That's not anything that That's unusual. That's how we define where land begins and where maritime areas end. That's normal. That's what we do. How much is between the low water and the high water mark depends on whether we're on the cliff edge or on a nice low beach. Yes, because the high tide will, exactly. But for definitional purposes, we have to take it, there has to be some line where it ends, and so that's the sole purpose of that definition there. In terms of the barrier reef system, comprising coral reefs, all of that is just dressing on top of the very specific coordinates that are established here for the whole barrier reef system. It's been surveyed out, it's been determined, it's written into the law, so the barrier reef system is a subset of the maritime zone of Belize.
With respect to Section 6, and several senators have mentioned it, it is my understanding that there are no outstanding petroleum licenses. At least it was issued by the Ministry of Natural Resources, and in my short tenure, I came across none in that area. I certainly didn't sign any. And I think Senator Garnett, minister responsible for that department now as Minister of State, has echoed the same.
The Tower Hill Bridge in Orange Walk has seen its fair share of historic protests. In 2017, though, an attempt to block an impromptu protest spearheaded by the opposition turned ugly very fast. As our number 5 story, the anti-corruption protest that ended when security forces came down hard against the protesters, tear-gassing them and roughing them up. Even a female journalist was manhandled in the process. It was a dark day for the freedom of assembly and expression.
The violent confrontation between the People's United Party and elements of the Belize Police Department at the Orange Walk toll bridge around midday culminated a fiery protest organized by the Northern Caucus of that political organization. Following a series of spirited presentations at the Central Park moments earlier, a spur-of-the-moment decision was taken for supporters of the opposition to proceed to the crossing and block access from commuters traveling along that stretch of the Philip Golson Highway.
This was spontaneous. We did not have trucks out here waiting, because if this would have been planned from before, we could have had trucks lined up here, but we didn't. Just at that moment, in the heat of the moment, I said, let's go to the toll bridge and to block it. For an hour or two, we weren't going to stay here all day, but just to make sure that they could understand.
That impromptu call was quickly met by members of law enforcement.
Sir, if we do the vehicles, then we have to participate in the civil disobedience. But this is the next logical step to saving our country. That's where we are. You're not going there, but that's where we're going.
When I arrest the man, then when I arrest the man,
right? You don't go there, but we're going there.
You need to go there, we'll not go there.
We have to go there, sir. We need to save our country. Right?
That's when Assistant Commissioner of Police Edward Broster walks away from the gathering of stalwarts, presumably to summon the riot squad to that location. A few minutes later, those officers, led by Inspector Aaron Gamboa, officer commanding a special patrol unit, appeared on the scene. ACP Broster then instructs the officers to move a Toyota Hilux pickup, which is the property of Orange Walk South area representative Abelardo Mai.
The police are standing on one side now.
How about the driver? He just knows some other people. Back up this crowd there. Back up this crowd there. Let's go. Clear the road.
And that's when the Special Patrol Unit began to manhandle Briseño and utter chaos breaks out.
Get the fucking weapon to Hey! Hey! Wait! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't fucking do that! Don't do that! Come on! Hold on. I thought to do that. I need to get him. I need to get him. Give me a break. Boy, you're the best. Boy, leave that man alone. Leave that man alone. Leave that man alone. Mr. Brasta, leave that man alone. Mr. Brasta is the party leader.
The police had their directives very loud and clear that they should come here and move us at whatever cost. As they came in, Basta, and came like a tug after me and pushing me and pulling me and telling me that at whatever force necessary that they were going to move us. And the same thing they did to the Honorable Jose Abelardo Mai. And after a while, when they started pushing us, and we said, okay, they let go tear gas, I don't want anyone to get hurt. And we said, okay, let us move. We moved. And when I was on my way, moving away from there, then Love FM, away from everything, stopped me and said they want an interview. I was giving them an interview when the police came behind me again and threw another canister of tear gas on top of all of us.
During the mayhem on the bridge, we spoke with Jose Mai.
We simply wanted to extend the message. We want to intensify the message, and I think we did just that. It was just planned impromptu, and the message was very clear though. I think we are coming for Dimbaro, and we are coming for Belmopan. This is only the beginning. You see how quickly people responded. In a matter of seconds, minutes, people responded to a very impromptu announcement by my party leader. This is only the beginning.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isani Cayetano.
No doubt, crime is everyone's business. 2017 was a deadly year, with the number of homicides in mid-December surpassing the death toll of 2016. The tally shows that the Belize district had the dubious distinction as the area with the highest murder count. There were a few homicides that stood out. Dwayne Moody has a recap in our number 4 story.
The most sensational that gripped the nation and our social media friends was the beheading of Hilton Wade. It's the second such gruesome discovery made in recent times. In July 2016, Pastor Llewellyn Lucas's head was found in a bucket in a vehicle belonging to William Danny Mason. But in the case of Wade, his head was left in the open under a bus shed half a mile from where his mutilated body was found. 2 men were charged for his murder, and it is believed that the killing was motivated by a land dispute.
There are several leads that we are following as to many complaints from the villagers as to his behavior and other things that might result into his death. No, that is so far that is that I can tell you about in regards to that investigation. We are trying to get the people from the lands department to confirm with us exactly to verify who is the actual owner of that premises there.
2017 saw several double murders in Belize district and up north in Corozal. The Baron Bliss Day weekend began with the mid-afternoon execution of Godwin Pantin and Albert Wade. Their bodies were discovered within feet of each other off the George Price Highway near miles 12.5. But it was the back-to-back double murders of couples Drew Devorsney and Francesca Matos and Zaide Orozco and Baltazar Lopez that shook the peaceful northernmost district of Corozal. On May 1st and then on June 7th, the decomposing bodies of the couples were discovered in a cane field off the Chan Chen Road and at a dump site on the Consejo Road, respectively. In both instances, residents were joined by police in days of searching for the missing couples before the gruesome discoveries were made. The Canadian-American couple, Divorcney and Matos, were to leave the country the day after they were last seen alive. They were bound at the risk, and their bodies were found 6 days after they were reported missing by a friend.
It's about 1.5 miles on the main road and 1 mile in a feeder road in a cane field. Yes, we have saw the 2 bodies. The male is partially on top of the female. Scenes of crime were called in, scene was processed. The body was in an advanced state of decomposition where the expert, the doctors was called in and the autopsy was done on site. Upon conclusion of the autopsy, the doctors, I have to say, conclude that the cause of death was massive strangulation.
Both cases remain unresolved and no one has been held responsible for these killings. Gang rivalry and the murders associated with urban warfare continue to grip the old capital. Of the 81 murders in the Belize district, 65 were in the city alone. 37 of those were in the last 6 months of the year, particularly within the South Side jurisdiction. The victims were youngsters, taxi operators, and even a mentally challenged woman and man. A Bangladeshi and a Chinese national were also killed in separate incidents in the city. In 4 years, there hadn't been a murder of an Asian national, but on September 25th, Bei Nan Wu was executed in an attempted robbery of his shop at the corner of Santa Barbara and Vernon Streets.
He has been in Belize for quite some time, close to 20 years. Always he kept very much to himself. We don't really know much about him. He's staying in his little shop and he do his everyday business, and it so happens tragedy comes to his doorstep. We're very concerned about the situation. We're asking the police to please conduct a thorough investigation into this matter, and we hope that the person that did this horrible act get charged and make the law take its action.
In the aftermath of the homicide, the Chinese business community staged a lockdown in protest of the killing. But public outrage was fast and furious in the case of Fei Lin Cannon. While it hasn't been classified as a murder, the telltale signs were all too familiar. The 13-year-old was discovered dead inside her adoptive parents' condo in North San Pedro. Her chest had been crushed, and a postmortem revealed that she had been sexually abused multiple times over an extended period, and she had been drugged. Her parents, David and Anke Doem, were subsequently charged, but not for murder. Even to date, residents believe that the system failed young Fei Lin.
I saw it, and many people saw it.
Did you ever report it?
I called the American embassy, and they told me that they were going to come, and they never came.
This is 3.5 years ago.
3.5 years ago. I called the human service from San Pedro, and he never came.
Do you feel that the system failed this child?
The system has failed the entire community because this is not the only child. The abuse and the incest in this community is out of control. We want no mercy for these people, but I condemn the authorities for not doing anything.
Months later, on October 5th, David Doem committed suicide. Anke is yet to stand trial for child cruelty. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
An issue that attracted both debate and protest was the decriminalization of up to 10 grams of marijuana. The bill enjoyed rare bipartisan support in the House of Representatives. The churches, however, opposed the decriminalization of even the small amount of marijuana, and other parties had lingering questions about gaps in the law. Nonetheless, there was widespread support for the move, as our news team found out in this story, which is our number 3.
During the consultations held nearly 2 weeks ago by the CARICOM Regional Commission on Marijuana, participating youths noted, with a mix of relief and trepidation, the more relaxed stance taken by police since the introduction of decriminalization of possession of 10 grams of marijuana or less.
It must be a relief for you as a smoker to not have to worry that police will run up on you and arrest you and charge you for that.
Well, I don't say that they legalize it and thing, but I still move the same way.
You still move with secrecy?
I don't ride around with that. I smoke home.
I actually like it now because lately I'm already been charged for a little less than 10 grams, and 10 grams is a little, and I was charged already for that. So now I feel a relief now because now I know they don't charge me for not again right now.
Their sentiments are echoed by persons who have spoken with famous basketballer and noted marijuana activist and user himself, Clinton Polo Lightburn.
Just before I got here, about an hour ago, I spoke with a friend of mine who, in their yard, you have at least 3 different people selling marijuana. That's like $50 Belize or less worth of marijuana. And they tell me that before the decriminalization law was passed, the police used to come there and harass them 2-3 times a month, and every day they would pass about 3 or 4 times a day vehicles filled with police. But since the law was passed, the police hasn't stopped by, and they don't see the vehicles filled with police anymore. And now and again, a police vehicle would go by with 2 police who are doing their routine patrol. Also, there is less tension in the yard. For example, the kids, they are not scared of the police anymore like how they used to be, because even they realize that a change has taken place.
The marijuana thaw has even extended to the courts, where cases of simple possession and even trafficking have seen a sharp reduction in the past month. But Lightburn says there is much further to go, especially as regards a change in thinking.
In Belize, when we get a picture of a marijuana smoker, we see 2 little black boys on the south side, 2 bad boys, they smoke weed. When you go to the States, that one white-head well, they used to go in the pharmaceutical place, they were sell marijuana, and what they are doing is they are replacing their drugs that used to have all these side effects that used to kill them with marijuana, which heals them. The thing is, I think we are nitpicking. As far as marijuana goes, I've never been to, and I have a lot of friends that smoke marijuana. I've never been to a friend of mine's funeral and they said, boy, that man dead because he smoked too much weed. All right? For example, the great Paul Nabar, he died when he was 85 years old. And he was the buye, the healer. He was the man who took you to meet your ancestors when they died. He played for 9 nights. He played the guitar from sunrise, from sunset to sunrise, and sang at all the funerals of his people. And he told me that whenever he did that, from sunset to sunrise, all he did was smoke marijuana and drink water.
Like most we have spoken with, Lightburn urges moderation and a proper understanding of the properties marijuana has. He also acknowledges the geopolitical reality. After a mass spraying of paraquat in the 1980s, the Belize marijuana trade gave way to imported varieties from Mexico, especially after the U.S. market collapsed when the decriminalization and legalization movement went there. But the church's opposition notwithstanding, what happens next? Lightburn predicts a chill out for the next few months, but expects party political support as general elections come around the corner.
I think it's something that won't be addressed again until the general election, just because of the way things are done in Belize. Even though it's urgent, most countries I know that once they start the decriminalization, like for example Jamaica, it's only been less than 2 years since they decriminalized, and already they are working on the legalization process. I personally don't believe that we are going to get that done or have a discourse about that until close to the next general election.
So you expect it may be a part of some political party's platform?
It definitely will be. Look how big it was this year. And all the people that are more, I would say 90% of the people that call for decriminalization also wants legalization.
Aaron Humes reporting for News 5.
Scandals at the Department of Immigration are nothing new. In fact, the department seemed to reel from one to the other, involving visas, nationalities, and passports. Throughout the year, a Senate Select Committee held public hearings that exposed the hustle between the period 2011 and 2013 at the department. The culture of corruption was exposed on national television, with some witnesses being more forthcoming than others. That's why the Senate inquiry makes it as one of the biggest stories in 2017.
Former administrative officer in the Immigration Department, Teresita Castellanos, in her appearance in February, aptly summed up the reason the Senate Special Select Committee is the talk of the nation.
The Immigration Department has an entrenched culture of corruption and hustling, milking the cow, we see, from the very top to the very bottom of the ladder. No politician can force a public officer to do illegal acts when performing our jobs. And if we do, we should face the same consequence. We should face the same consequence as the politicians, if necessary, if it comes to that. For the Belizean people are demanding justice. There are a few good, honest, and dedicated immigration officers, but there was not enough trusted staff to oversee the daily operations of the sections and at the district offices and border station. The call for help was not answered, and this inquiry is the result.
On a near weekly basis, Belizeans tuned in as the mud flew back and forth. Oversight, ignorance, and occasional deliberate blindness to law and principle, a department so stuck in the morass that it was a wonder anything got done. But as the inquiry reached the very top, the memories got shorter, especially for former Minister Elvin Penner about his special relationship with Wong Hong Kim.
How and when did you meet Mr. Kim?
Again, that's a question that I will not answer.
Mr. Penner, can you tell the committee why you are not answering that question?
I made my statement and my reasons why in my opening statement. You can refer to that. And like I said, if that is not sufficient for you to excuse me to answer that question, then the Senate has the full right to do and take whatever actions you all feel is necessary to take.
Penner's former colleagues, Anthony Boots Martinez, and especially Edmond Castro, and to a lesser extent, Manuel Heredia, Carlos Perdomo, and Rene Montero, often tried to evade or belittle their questioners, as when Castro was confronted with the infamous statement by PM Barrow about how ministerial procuration of visas would cause the government to fall. He denied it and tried to change the topic.
And the question was posed to you. Do you remember that statement?
No, sir.
Don't you? But in court documents, Minister, you answered yes.
We in a court right now, Joe?
No.
Well,
no,
I
Minister.
tell you something. I don't remember.
You referred us to the statement. And I'm reminding you that you are under oath and that you run the risk of perjury.
Let me tell you something. We did a Senate hearing to deal with this issue, the recommendation. You make us stick to it, no? You know they go to court, man. You don't deal with that.
So your answer remains that you've never heard that statement from the Prime Minister.
Where is this visa hustle evidence that you guys are talking about? Where is it?
Defiance of the top dogs aside, the questions later turned to how to fix immigration's many woes. It won't be easy, as up to the present day, Director of Immigration Diana Locke testified that some will stop at nothing to circumvent the system, even for something as innocuous as queuing up.
I have had occasions where I have had to go in. I had a complaint from someone where they went there at, I think it was 4:30 in the morning, and they got number 16. And we reviewed the camera, and we were able to see that not that many people had gone there. What had been happening, the security were making entries into that diary for people who had contacted them. I have no proof whether or not there was a fee paid, But we do know that there were entries being made into the booklet for people, so if you came at 4 in the morning, you may well have gotten number 15. We took steps to address that, and we told them that the numbers would not be issued.
At its core, the inquiry is about getting to the bottom of the corruption and hustling, not just who did it, but who will do something, anything, about it. Business Community Senator and Committee Member Mark Lizarraga made clear that it is a team effort.
We'll have to wait and see what the majority of the members say, but I certainly believe at this point, it's speaking to a deficiency at the ministry level to properly addressing these things, because we've heard people say in testimony that they knew from the very top to the very bottom. They knew what was happening. You've heard that testimony too. So we need to see now where the will is to fix it.
Aaron Humes reporting for News 5.
This story continues into 2018 as the committee meets again in private in January to begin the process of planning and writing the report. 2017 has been a case of the chickens coming home to roost for the Barrow government in 2 particular cases. In the span of 2 weeks in November, the Caribbean Court of Justice delivered 2 separate but damaging blows to the government in the matter of the settlement of Belize Telemedia Limited and Belize Bank Limited in favor of Universal Health Services. The nationalization of Belize Telemedia, which occurred in 2009 and again in 2011, dominated the headlines for years, and so did a loan by the Belize Bank in respect of the Universal Health Services. Years of litigation eventually led to the settlement of Telemedia, with GOB paying out more than $500 million for the company. Soon after that was cleared, the Caribbean Court of Justice ruled that the bank can enforce an order on the government for payment of $90 million. Government says it won't pay and has called a House meeting for January 5th, 2018. So what's next as this huge debt looms over our heads to start the new year?
What we have paid, which is what the tribunal found we were supposed to have paid, we're supposed to pay, much less than what the alliance was hoping for, is in any case, I insist, absolutely worth it in terms of our long-term, eternal ownership of BTL, a BTL that will take telecoms in this country to higher heights and that will make beaucoup bucks for government and people. Implicit in the very action of going to Parliament is the possibility that a bill, any bill, may not pass. Parliament is free and indeed mandated to pass fair and correct laws, but it is equally free and just as mandated not to pass laws that aren't fair and aren't correct. And when it comes to the particular matter of a law to provide for the payment of a judgment debt, which, though legally valid, is morally reprehensible, it is the essence of a country's sovereignty and Parliament's authority that a decision can be made not to approve the law, not to pay the debt.
The same man, but is he contradicting himself? Prime Minister Dean Barrow would say no. After all, it was his decision in 2009 and again in 2011 to acquire Telemedia and then to settle compensation with Lord Michael Ashcroft in 2015, although the matter returned to court over the quantum of currency twice since. Both BTL payments come out of the main reserves, which Financial Secretary Joseph Waite notes will not bounce back so easily.
It will not wipe out. It will reduce the reserves by about 20-25%. Remaining after that will be about 3 months of import cover, which is fairly comfortable. Reserves are built over time. generally from surpluses between your exports and your imports. It will take time to rebuild, but it's in a positive direction because the balance of payments is largely in equilibrium. Some months you're in, some months you're out, but it's largely over the period of time. The current account of the balance of payments, as it's called, that is your trade account, is largely positive, and that will, over time, will take some time. And we hope that production remains and prices remains. We have no natural disasters.
As for UHS, it was ex-Prime Minister Said Musa who ultimately had the final say on acquiring the debt of Universal Health Services as part of the National Health Insurance Scheme, a decision that briefly threatened him with jail and set the borough administration on its current path of resistance. But Musa still thinks he did the right thing.
It was settled, as you know, by my government at the time. And indeed, we had received grants from Taiwan and from Venezuela that would have paid off that debt completely at no cost to the Belizean people. It was done at the time because, since you want to go back into history,
yes, sir.
Let us look at the full history. The debt was a debt of the Development Finance Corporation in the sense that the DFC had guaranteed the debt to the bank, right? Eventually. The DFC was unable to pay UHS's debt. So the government took it on as a responsible government. But not only did we take it on, because the understanding clearly was, and the agreement was, that the government would eventually have owned that hospital.
Except that never happened. But what happens next, the Prime Minister has said, is entirely up to the rest of his lawmakers, some of whom have already vociferously expressed their views. He rests assured that whatever decision it is, it will more or less be final, unless the bank chooses to take up cudgels again. Aaron Humes reporting for News 5.
As we look back at 2017, we must add our own achievements here at Great Belize Productions. It gives us tremendous pride and satisfaction to have distinguished ourselves once again at the annual Caribbean Union's General Assembly held in the Bahamas. Members of our news team and production department won a total of 8 awards for news features as well as advertisements and television shows produced here at Channel 5. This is an accomplishment that we are happy to share with you, our viewers. So, thanks for watching and see you next year.
So let's say that happened.